Hi SwitchUp family and welcome back to the channel. Now, it's not always sunshine and roses, but whatever anyone might tell you about running a YouTube channel, there are a lot of occasions where just very cool things happen, and this is one of them. We really enjoyed the first front mission, which we covered on the channel, but we were quite surprised honestly when Forever Entertainment reached out to us and said, look, we know you haven't had a chance to cover the game yet on your channel, will you just let people know what's in this one? And we were like, yeah, okay. So yeah, just a massive thanks to them for sponsoring this episode. If you're a fan of the series and want to win a copy, just let us know down in the comments your thoughts on the game. What's it all about then? Well, my name's Mark Walker, welcome back to SwitchUp, and now let's find out. So from Mission 2 then, it was originally a tactical role-playing game that was released in '97 for the PlayStation from Square Enix, and as the title suggests, it's the second in the series. It was quite surprising then for many to see Polish publisher Forever Entertainment announce that they've got the rights to make the remakes of both games. Especially cool for many of us who never got to play the original, as I don't believe it had a Western release. These remakes aim to preserve the essence of the original game, while updating some of the visuals and tweaking a few things, but these very much are the games that you remember, for better and worse in some areas, as you won't find some of the quality of life aspects you may be looking for. Now with that said, there are a lot of improvements, chief among them the loading speed. The original game had very long load times, and this is significantly improved here. There are some other tweaks that we'll talk about, and a couple of bigger changes. From Mission 2 is set within quite a familiar sounding world, where two superpowers are at war, trying to compete for global dominance, and you play as one of three protagonists who's caught up within a coup d'etat in a region known as Aladesh, a former OCU territory. They're trying to escape the country while uncovering the truth behind the conflict. What follows is a relatively branching storyline with some twists and turns that takes you all across the country. The storyline has a massive cast of characters, and if you've ever played a Square Enix RPG in the past, then the way the story's told will really appeal to you. There are loads of twists and turns, people get kidnapped, and as it branches out you'll have to take on control of other protagonists. For those who are a little bit averse to waffle, you can skip through this quite quickly if you want to, but it's actually well written and worth engaging in, as it makes those battles a lot more poignant. Gameplay is split into two parts. Whichever location you're currently in may have a few facilities that you can visit, be they bars to have a drink and chat to the locals, or an arena where you can actually battle it out against others. And usually you'll find a shop, very important for making purchases, as we'll talk about in a minute, and an area to customize your Wanza, that being the huge mech that each of these characters can control. It's probably one of the most appealing aspects of the game. You can choose from a variety of different body parts, weapons, backpacks, colors, and of course change the name of these units, and even customize the computer chips that control certain aspects, such as its ability to do short-range damage, and the remake features quite a few more customization options in terms of those colours. If you like making things look fancy, you're going to have a whale of a time. The weapons that you can purchase will have different ranges, and this is all important when it comes to combat, but they also have a different cost to using them in action points, and a different weight, and there's only so much weight you can equip to your mech. Now if you'd prefer to go for a specific archetype, there are several to choose from, and that will give you all the predefined parts from a specific Wanza set, focusing on things like speed, range, or melee damage. However, you can mix and match those, choosing a different body, unique legs, and all of those actually affect the gameplay, because things like terrain will impact the speed at which you can move with a certain type of leg. If you're using the half track, you may move faster on land, while others will allow you to move more freely in water. From these prep screens, you'll also buy ammunition, different items, which you can place in your backpack, allowing them to be used in combat, and you can tailor the skills that you've got. Now the battles themselves let you place your units where you want, but you can auto place them within this area, and from there it begins, allowing you to perform actions such as attacking, using items or skills which consume your action points, and when you select your unit you can scroll through them using the triggers, and you can see the area you can move within. It also shows you how much AP that movement will cost. This is important because, as I said, certain weapons you'll need to have a certain amount of AP before you can fire them. This is one area where we can see they were keen to retain the gameplay exactly as it was originally. I am used to seeing some indication of how far I can move and which weapons I'll be able to use once I've moved there. What you find here is you move to a spot and you kind of have to look at the grid on the floor and get to know your weapons well enough to ensure you're within range. For example, the long range missiles, they're around 5 square distance, and if you're 4 squares you won't be able to use them. All of the close range weapons are much more simple, obviously, because they're directly next to the enemy. Engaging in combat then takes you to a different instance. Here you can see both yourself and the enemy unit, as well as the health percentages of all of their body parts. This is important because if you can destroy their guns, then they're basically completely immobilized and won't be able to do you any damage. There are certain skills as well that allow you to do this more quickly, or you might destroy their legs. I'm sure you can figure out why you might want to do that. There's an element of chance here, although you will be able to see the percentage chance to hit, and you can make some tactical decisions here as well. Having a gun that has a 80% chance to hit but only 1 bullet is probably going to be less statistically useful than having a 5-shot rocket that does a quarter of the damage and has the same percentage. After a while you might want to speed combat up a little bit, and you can do that. You can actually disable those combat instances by choosing the quick combat option, and the camera will maintain its perspective and you'll actually see it play out from a distance. I would generally switch back and forward between these depending on whether I wanted to see things up close, just because it looks cool, or if I was just trying to get through the battle. Things are a little different if you come under attack. Here you'll have the option of doing a counter attack using one of your weapons, or trying to evade damage entirely. What you choose is important. If you don't want to go for something that's got no ammunition, you want to make sure when you're loading out your mech you have something to defend yourself with, and you'll also have some say in certain scenarios about what your teammates do. They might say, which enemy type do you want me to target? When should I use my healing items? Things like that, but controls actually work really well. Now what you can do is rotate the camera through 8 different axes, but in this new remade version you can actually introduce a 360-degree control camera that also allows you to adjust the angle. It's funny, isn't it? You get these improvements and you end up not using them because you prefer the older way, but it's nice that it's in there. If you make a move that you don't like, you can actually press a button and just undo that, and you can save at any point during combat, which can also be quite handy. Now if you need an overview of it, there's a mini-map that you can bring up and it produces a simplified zoomed out view. This is very handy at the start of a battle, just to get your head around the general layout and location of enemies on the battlefield. All throughout each fight you'll be gaining experience, and you'll actually level up and get new skills during combat. You can apply these straight away and they can be game changing. Some of them can double your damage, improve your critical rate, and they'll trigger spontaneously at certain points. So you might do an attack and find that thank goodness you've actually done a double attack in that moment, or it's used a skill that's targeted the legs, and it certainly has a little bit of spice to those tougher fights. What is important though is that you need to use all of your Wanza if you want them to be equally effective in combat. They won't get broad spectrum experience. You will need to use them for them to gain specific experience within any specific weapon. Using long range they'll gain long experience, and short. It all makes sense, but it's another area where these days you tend to get experience across everything and not really have to worry too much about who you use and when. If you've just played the first front mission and you're wondering whether the sequel is worth picking up, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Just don't go in expecting lots of quality of life improvements over the original release. It's very much a prettier version of the original game. You might be surprised by just how much story there is in between the missions and that it's actually worth reading. The amount of customization you can do to your Wanzas makes for a very compelling distraction, particularly as you unlock more items. And the area layouts and maps during combat are quite smartly designed, as although it doesn't have a cover mechanic per se, you can use line of sight and alternate routes to get the drop on enemies. Visually, well, it uses a combination of 3D visuals for combat and hand-drawn, almost visual novel segments between it, and performance tends to be 30 frames per second at all times. There is quite a bit of loading here, but as I mentioned at the start, the load times have been significantly improved, and they've also completely renewed the soundtrack, but still giving you the option to quickly switch between whichever one you actually prefer, which is always nice to see. My only other point of note would be that the text is a little bit smaller than I would like. A text size option would be nice, and some of the translation to English, although it might be straight out of the original, could use a little refinement. I noticed a few missing determiners and things like that. While the retail price is £31.49 or your regional equivalent and fits into 6.4 gigs, you can save up to 20% if you own the first game, or there's a base 10% discount and a 15% discount if you own selective titles. You might be aware of the physical edition that's coming out that looks absolutely lovely. It has a plastic case with the game cartridge, a reversible cover which depicts the different Wanzas on a battlefield on the outside, and emblems of the military units on the back. There's a lovely illustrated 16-page manual as well as a numbered certificate. So that's it. Hopefully that tells you everything you need to know about Front Mission 2 Remake. I've certainly been enjoying myself with it, and yeah, just amazing really that Square Enix and Forever Entertainment wanted our thoughts. As I said at the start, let us know yours and we'll be giving away a copy. It would be nice if we could get one of those physicals, wouldn't it? I'll have to hit them up and see what they say. Thanks to all of you, our Patreons, our members, and to anyone that enjoys the content. For all things Switch, all the time, keep it Switch up. Cheers guys. See ya!